Long ago, God existed in a world without shape, covered in darkness. He was above the vast waters, and at a powerful moment, God said, "Let there be light." Suddenly, light appeared, and God saw that it was good. He divided light from darkness, showing his great power. But there's a big question in theology. Where did God come from? Even before there was heaven and earth, when everything was dark and shapeless, God was already there. He was alone in his greatness and brought light out of darkness, order out of chaos, and made a cosmos out of confusion. But we still wonder, where did God begin? Some say God made the earth 6,000 years ago in just 6 days. But for honesty's sake, we need to ask, where did God come from? And once we know God's beginning, we say to ourselves, how can a spiritual force affect a material universe? If we think God made the universe, we logically wonder, who made God? And then who made the God who made God? It is an endless cycle of questions. Exploring who made God leads us to think about the idea of a created God, which is fascinating. This question highlights something important. Believing in God as the Creator is a basic part of understanding, but it also makes us think about a more reasonable explanation, that something can't come from nothing. If we agree that making something from absolute nothingness is impossible, then something eternal must have always been there. It's the only logical explanation, otherwise we'd be stuck in an eternal emptiness. So we're kind of forced to believe that something eternal has always existed. The idea of eternal existence is key to understanding creation. Let's consider this question. Can anything exist eternally? Given what we know about the physical world, since the 1930s, when the Big Bang Theory gained wide acceptance, our understanding of the universe has undergone significant changes. According to this theory, our current universe represents just one instance in an infinite series of temporal manifestations. Think about the evidence. The universe is in constant flux, with energy gradually being consumed. The well-established second law of thermodynamics tells us that energy depletes over time, stars lose energy, and the universe's expansion appears to be accelerating, expanding beyond our comprehension. All of this suggests that the physical world, as we know it, isn't a likely candidate for eternal existence. So, the big question arises. Whatever has existed eternally must be vastly different from what we observe today. The primordial cause, the source of everything, must be beyond our current understanding. Hence, we're compelled to explore the true nature of this mystery that transcends our physical world. I understand that the concept of eternal existence might seem challenging, but let me offer a different perspective. Consider that everything we perceive as contingent reality, things that could be otherwise, are merely fleeting manifestations. Even seemingly solid objects, like the chair in front of you, were once mere possibilities, teetering on the edge of non-existence. They're impermanent and fade over time. The truth is, all these things cannot explain themselves. They're interconnected like domino pieces in a chain of interdependent contingencies. At some point, we must assume there's something fundamental, something entirely different from what we're trying to explain. However, when it comes to God, the central claim of Christian, Jewish, and Islamic traditions is that God is eternal. Therefore, the question about God's origin doesn't apply to him by definition. The only way to counter this argument is to assume that everything falls into the category of created, which essentially brings us back to square one. The ancient Greeks delved into this inquiry, which is why the Gospel of John the Baptist begins with the words, "In the beginning was the Word." This phrase prompts us to consider that all things originate from something eternal and transcendent, something beyond our comprehension, something that existed before everything else. The ancient Greeks pondered the distinction between what was created and what already exists. Ultimately, this inquiry boils down to whether there is something or someone who never came into existence. Christians assert that this being is God, and this assertion is central to their faith. While the question of who created God may seem legitimate to some, I argue that it is not. Now, for those who believe that the universe created everything, I pose a question. Who created the creator of the universe? The question of who created God isn't as intricate as it might appear. When we refer to God as an eternal and timeless being, the answer becomes clear. As Keith Ward argues in his book, God, Chance, and Necessity, if someone were to ask, what caused God? The answer would be straightforward. Nothing could have brought into existence a reality that completely transcends space and time, that is, self-existent. Understanding this notion means grasping that God surpasses the categories of beginning and end. Anything that begins to exist requires a cause. It cannot emerge from nothing. However, something that is eternal and timeless doesn't fit into this initial premise. It doesn't need a cause. Even atheists like Daniel Dennett acknowledge that if eternal truths exist, such as numbers or mathematical objects, they do not need a cause because they never come into existence. The concept of God precisely embodies the idea of an eternal and self-existent being, a primal necessity. Therefore, the answer is simple. God has no cause because he is self-existent. Our definition of God is the uncreated creator of the universe who transcends all limitations of time and space. Asking who created the uncreated creator is like pondering the sound of silence or the actions of emptiness. The point is that there's a concept of silence that makes such a question irrelevant. Similarly, questioning who made the uncreated creator of the universe doesn't apply. Christians believe in a God who wasn't created, while atheists offer different perspectives. As a former atheist, I also believed in an uncreated creator, though my understanding differed. Perhaps a multiverse generator or quantum environment where universes arise spontaneously. Regardless, the idea was the universe wasn't created, so everyone believes in an uncreated creator. Reflecting on the universe's origin and God's impact on it, perhaps the crucial question is how this creator relates to our continuum of time, space, and matter. Time, space, and matter must have emerged simultaneously. The Bible succinctly addresses this in Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Thus, time, space, and matter form an essential trinity. Time spans past, present, and future. Space includes length, width, and height, while matter exists in gas, liquid, and solid states. This trinity was instantly created, and the God who created them transcends them beyond temporal limitations. If God was subject to time, he wouldn't be God, restricted by his creation. Just as the creator of a computer isn't trapped inside it, manipulating its functions, the God who made the universe isn't bound by it. Regarding Dan's claim that a spiritual force can't affect a material body, it raises intriguing questions. How can we understand emotions like love, hate, envy, and jealousy, along with rationality? If our brain is simply a product of chemical reactions formed over billions of years, how reliable are our reasoning abilities and our sense of what's right? I've pondered a lot about where God came from before, but that question assumes that God is limited, which isn't the case. The God I admire isn't confined by time and space. Even if I tried to grasp him with my mind, he'd still be worthy of worship. That's what captivates me. He surpasses understanding, which is why I worship him. It brings to mind Samuel Beckett's words, "I saw when he stepped from the heels of the demon," meaning God isn't confined by place or form. His presence transcends all boundaries. So, did he originate from nothing? The reason God emerged from nothing is that there was no place for him to originate from. He didn't come from anywhere, and he stood on nothing. He extended his hand when there was nothing to hold on to, and created something where there was nothing. Referring to Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and 27, we see that he suspended this world on nothing and stood on nothing. He wielded the hammer of his will and the anvil of his omnipotence, scattering sparks into space and adorning the heavens with stars, and no one objected. There was no one to object. God declared that everything was good, and he honored Christ with a name higher than any other. This means that whenever someone mentions Jesus, everyone everywhere will bow down and acknowledge that Jesus Christ is the Lord, bringing glory to God the Father. I want to stress that questions about where God came from and how the universe was created have fascinated people for ages. No matter what you believe, one thing is certain: we can't fully understand the truth about God and the universe. The concept of a God who was never created, who exists beyond time, space, and matter, challenges our minds, but also reminds us of the vastness of what we don't know. Finding truth is a personal and spiritual journey, and each of us can find meaning in different ways. We explore different perspectives that make us think and recognize that there is something greater than ourselves. No matter where you are in your spiritual journey, I hope these discussions have helped you appreciate how amazing and mysterious the universe and the divine existence can be. Thank you for watching, and may your journey be full of meaningful discoveries. For more content like this, do subscribe and make this channel your home, and share your opinions in the comments.